Let's talk some Texas Longhorn recruiting coming off a impressive 31-14 win over Kentucky, and they had five-star offensive tackle Michael Fasusi on campus. Can the Horns flip him from Oklahoma? Well, I got Justin Wells from InsideTexas. He's going to go behind the scenes of this important recruitment. But first, Texas fans, do me a favor right now. Smash that subscribe button. We're talking Texas Longhorn recruiting between now and signing day and beyond, so jump on board, hit subscribe. All right, let's bring on Justin Wells. Justin, there's a couple big flip targets on campus. Well, it was also great to see Jamie French and Myron Charles there, but we got to get to offensive tackle Michael Fasusi. The five-star offensive tackle from the state of Texas is committed to the Sooners, but this weekend he was in Austin. What are you hearing coming out of this important visit?
Yeah, so Michael Fasusi is going to take a few trips. He is solid to Oklahoma, and I'm going to continue to kind of preach that. This kid is locked into his Oklahoma commitment, but he does want to see a couple good games. He got to see one on Saturday. I caught up with him as he was coming into the stadium, him and his father, Ebenezer, wonderful man. You know, this boy is imposing, 6'5", 305 pounds, looks absolutely fantastic. Your franchise left tackle. Oklahoma's cratering, and he's going to do some due diligence just right before National Signing Day, just to make sure. Some of the things that stood out to him, I talked to him on my way home from after covering the game, and he basically lined it out. He's like, look, I thought the Texas offensive line looked incredible. And he even identified the final drive that was 15 consecutive run plays over an 8-minute period that basically, put the nail in the coffin for Kentucky. He elaborated that entire series, and he was impressed how aggressive the play calling was, and just how the O-line kind of meshed together and played really well together. He got to talk to Kenny Baker and Steve Sark, got to sit in on offensive meetings. Not Kenny Baker, I'm sorry, Kyle Flood. I'm thinking Myron Charles in the back of my head because he got to do the same thing. But yeah, Fasusi loved to sit in with those guys. He told me it's always love from this staff. They've been like that for 2.5, almost 3 years in this recruitment. When he picked Oklahoma in the summer, it was down to Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Texas. There was a reason Texas was in that top three. And then he had talked about how he's ready to go to College Station next weekend for the Texas A&M game. Texas fans are going to read that as, well, you get to see Texas again. There's something there. I wouldn't read too much into that. Texas A&M was really, really close in this recruitment as well. They're still close in this recruitment. They're a contender as much as Texas, if not a little bit more. But the Horns have his attention, and if something goes awry with Bill Bedenbaugh or any of the things that are happening in Norman right now, that's where I could see a crack here where you could get in and possibly flip them. But right now, love the Austin trip, love coming back, seeing the players, hanging out with some of the recruits. Some of the recruits got to talk to him. He had mentioned to me. But at the end of the day, I think he's still solid to Oklahoma. Let's see what happens next weekend when Texas and Texas A&M converge on Thunderdome.
Yeah, because he's kind of back at not at Texas, but he's back at a Texas game. So do you get the sense that this is one of those like, hey, I'm going to make a final decision, or are we not there yet with Michael Fasusi?
I honestly think he's in the back of his mind wants to make a final decision. Now he's and again, I do think I think there's a strong chance he remains in this Oklahoma class because honestly, they're going to hire a new OC. That's not going to happen before National Signing Day. And they're dang sure not going to fire Bill Bedenbaugh before or after that in that fashion. And so I think he'll play the odds. Now, if signing day was later, I think this recruitment would be different. I think what happens with the offensive staff at Oklahoma would have an incredible influence on this, but that's not the case. And so I think he's weighing his options. He's doing his due diligence, guys. He just wants to make just like all these other kids, they want to make absolute sure what they're going to do. I think Texas put themselves in an even better spot, but I also know that when I was talking to him on the phone, he was listening to Oklahoma drub Alabama and Norman, which no one called. He was excited about that. He is a young kid that has a couple weeks left before he enrolls early in his future college. He's trying to soak it all up. And I think the Texas A&M game has a chance to make another impression on him. It's going to have to be a big one.
Yeah. All right. So before the game, there was already some big recruiting news. Joseph Mbachu, formerly a Florida Gator commitment. He's from the state of Georgia, announced his commitment to the Texas Longhorns. Big pickup. We've talked about him plenty on this channel with you. But my question is, Now, with Myron Charles back on campus as well, tweeting out the little home emoji with the Texas photo, so we assume that Myron Charles is solid for now. But I saw that Nate Marshall, defensive lineman committed to Auburn, was also on campus. Justin, how big of a priority is Nate Marshall? Does Texas have room for him?
Yeah, I don't know how much of a priority, but they definitely have room.
Okay.
They want 4 defensive linemen in this cycle. And watching Marshall's tape, I don't know if he's more D lineman or more big edge. Like, he is in person a string bean. He is a very skinny kid. He's got a great frame that can add functional mass.
Right.
He looks fantastic. I think they made an impression on him. Just talking to some of the other recruits in that section, I think that made an impression on him. With Myron Charles, I think he's solid for now, but I also feel like he could end up in Gainesville next weekend because Florida is adamant that they want to flip this kid. They want to do it sort of DeAndre Robinson style and keep him home. But the fact that he did go ahead and cancel that last UF visit last weekend and got on the plane and decided, I want to come home. I want to see Kenny Baker, Steve Sarkisian, and this group, I think was big. Not to mention, like you had said, 5-star Jamie French was in the stands. I got to catch up with him before and after the game. Jonah Williams, I hear a holler. I'm on the sideline, and I hear this holler, and it's Jonah Williams up in the stands trying to get down on the field. So we sort of maneuvered it where he could walk through here and walk down here. And I told the lady checking press credentials, I said, look, this is a young man that Jim Schlossnagel's right over here. He'd like to come down here because they're real strict on letting people on the field.
Sure.
I said, please don't do this to this kid. This is the number 1 safety in the country. He's a 5-star. Let this kid in. And they did. And so talking to all those guys, that's a good thing for Myron Charles, to be around the like-minded commitments, to be around the guys that are going to buy in. Mm-hmm. I still think that recruitment's a little bit open. Nate Marshall's the one that we're kind of watching. Right. And I need to check with my Auburn sources today to kind of see where they are because they're coming off a pretty fun win over Texas A&M last night. Yeah. But Marshall, that was the surprise. We weren't expecting him on campus. And we knew Mbachi was committing yesterday. That was all signed, sealed, and delivered, and that thing was ready to go. But Marshall's the new name in there because Texas wants 4 D linemen. If they could sneak 5 in this cycle, they would. But right now, the number's 4.
All right, Texas fans, how are we feeling about the flip of a potential offensive tackle, Michael Fasusi? Talk to us. Let us know. Comment section below. You think Texas gets it done?